The Nephilim had one of the most demonic origins known to mankind. They were created when God's favorite angels, known as the Watchers, decided to disobey him by reproducing with mortal women. The children born out of such a unison were hideous and were considered as savages. These giants destroyed everything that came in their path and refused to heed to anyone, not even God. But what exactly is the story behind their origins? Why are they mentioned in the Bible, but not their origins? Let's find out. Biblically, angels have always had a higher pedestal than humans. We can see them being mentioned in the Bible on various occasions. Not only were they created by God at different times, but their creation had also a definite purpose. But some of these angels have a dark past. Also known as Satan's fallen angels, these once heavenly beings called the Watchers, who were supposed to keep watch on the humans on earth and inform God of their welfare. The only thing that they were denied access to was having any kind of personal interactions with humans. Unfortunately, the story of the Watchers takes a scary turn as they get really attached to mortal women, as such was their beauty. They broke the only command that they were supposed to abide by and engaged in illicit relations with them. This rebellious behavior on part of the Watchers ultimately resulted in the birth of nature's abomination, the Nephilim, which further resulted in the corruption and wickedness in the world. Chapter 6, 1-4 of the book of Genesis tells us about this interaction. It says that when humanity began to multiply on the earth, the Son of God noticed that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took them as wives. The Nephilim, mighty men of old, were born as a result. They were the renowned heroes of ancient times. The sons of God referred to the Watchers, and the daughters of man referred to the mortal men. The Nephilim, who were alive before the great flood, were the ones who were born to the first set of Watchers. In the book of Job, chapter 38, verse 4-7, Job in his interaction with God talks about morning stars, which can be interpreted as angels. It was a time when mankind had not yet been created, when God is said to have laid the foundation of the earth, which means that the reference to sons of God is a direct reference to the angels. There are three possible meanings of the term sons of God. Either they were fallen angels, or they were powerful human rulers, or they were godly descendants of Seth who intermarried with the wicked descendants of Cain. This implies that the Nephilims were the resulting offspring of spirit beings and humans. The Bible does not explain when or how the Nephilim arrived, but they've been mentioned in Genesis 6 alongside their intermarriage of the sons of God and daughters of men. But why would they be mentioned together if the Nephilim were the outcome of the unison of the angels and mortal women? Jude 6 talks about the angels who refused to stay in their position of authority and left their proper dwelling. Was Jude referring to the angels who left for earth to live among the mortals mentioned in Genesis 6, 1-4? The things in the Bible are far beyond the comprehension of a common man. The truth in the Bible is often strange and feels baseless, but then no one can truly explain what actually happened in those days. But why would the sons of God do something that were warned not to? The Bible doesn't explicitly explain why. However, these sons of God are considered to be tremendously evil. A specific theory explains why the angels did what they did. It says that these beings were trying to contaminate the human race one by one so that the Messiah wouldn't come to earth. This might be Satan's plan to make his fellow fallen angels marry mortal women so as to pollute the human gene pool in order to make humans unfit to bear the seed of the women. In Genesis 3:15, it's been said that the Savior cannot be born of a demon-possessed mother. So if Satan could infect the whole of mankind, the deliverer would be blocked from entering earth. Satan nearly succeeded in his endeavors. The whole human race had degraded to such an extent that God decided to hit the reset button on the human race while keeping Noah and his family intact. He also imprisoned all the evil angels and killed most of the Nephilims that lived at that time. However, some escaped. Where did these Nephilim go after the flood? The fallen angels committed the same mistake again soon after the flood, although it was not to a high extent. The group of Israelites who were sent to Canaan to scout the land did not believe what they had seen there. Although the land was everything that they had hoped for, they were baffled by the sight of Nephilims who seemed to have resided there. Numbers 13:33 says, "And there we saw the giants, the son of Enoch, which came of the giants, and were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight." These giants were also known as Rephaim, meaning terrible ones. This word has been referred to in the Bible, firstly in Genesis 14. The Hebrew word Rephaim has two different meanings. Firstly, the word Rephaim is used to refer to departed spirits whose dwelling place is Sheol. It's a concept similar to a ghost. Secondly, it denotes the Rephaim as mighty people with tall stature who lived in the land of Canaan. In Deuteronomy 3, there is the story of Og, king of Bashan, who was a giant man who was the last of the Rephaim. He was a mighty and infamous Amorite king who reigned at Asheroth, who fought the Israelites on their way to the Promised Land. However, Israelites were the victors against him, as God had already decided to give him and his territory to the Israelites. Their victory was certain. In the first book of Samuel, chapter 17, there's a story of David who encountered a giant known as Goliath. Although Goliath is not explicitly described as a Nephilim, he did have the characteristics that a Nephilim usually has. Goliath, a Philistine warrior who was exceptionally tall and formidable in battle. He challenges the Israelites to send out a champion to defeat him in single combat, and the outcome of the battle would determine the victory of either the Philistines or the Israelites. On encountering the giant, David said to him, "You come against me with a sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you defied. This day the Lord will hand you over to me, and I'll strike you down and cut off your head." David remained unafraid in the face of this monstrous beast. His only weapons were a sling and a stone against a giant clad in 200 pounds of armor. David triumphed over the Philistine just with a sling and a stone and struck down the giant and killed him. He got on top of him and cut off his head with a sword. The Philistine army ran for their lives when they saw this. The Israelite army chased them out of their land and proved to be victorious. But was Goliath a Nephilim? Some scholars believe that Goliath was a Gittite, a Gath resident who belonged to a race known as the Nephilim. Some other experts think otherwise. They argued that Goliath was Rephites because the Nephilim were destroyed in the Great Flood during the time of Noah. Goliath was not the only giant mentioned in the book of Samuel. In 2 Samuel 21:15-22 and 1 Chronicles 20:4-8, which tells us about the things that happened when David had grown old. The Israelites again had a fight with the Philistines where Goliath grew weak in a battle against the descendants of Goliath called Ishbibadab. However, the Philistine was killed by Abishai, who had come to the aid of David. There are various other instances where the descendants of Goliath are defeated by the hands of David's servants. The connection between Goliath and the Nephilim is only a subject of interpretation and speculated beyond the words of the Bible. Many non-canonical texts and writings try to propose a connection between Goliath and Nephilim, but are they really true, or are they made up to feed our curious minds? How do you think the Nephilims came into being? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.